Very good afternoon to all of you. I, Dr. Sanjeeb Pattnaik, welcome all of you to this particular session where we shall be dealing with some of the aspects of total quality management. In this particular paper, total quality management of the course, which has been coded as MMPC 019, we have seen what is our TQM, or in other words, the total quality management. Then we went on to see what is the need for TQM, then what are the requirements for implementation of total quality management, how the organization is going to benefit from the total quality management implementation, that also we tried to see. Now we have reached such a stage that it is not possible for every customer to physically verify, cross-check the adherence to quality. Now, when we are saying adherence to quality, that means the product which the customer is purchasing, whether or not it is satisfying the required quality as per the needs of the stakeholders. We can say stakeholders can be customers basically. Apart from that, we have government, we have other activists who work for betterment of the earth or earth's environment. So the question in front of us is, what should we do? Now here we set some standards. That means if an organization is achieving those standards in terms of quality, then immediately that gives a sense of assurance to the customer that yes, the items are of qualitative nature. Now for that, we require a set of guidelines, set of standards, and it has to be accepted by one and all. When I say one and all, we mean that the countries across the world who are open for trade among themselves, they should be adhering to this particular quality standards. That has led to development of a certain body which frames the standards under ISO 9000 quality management system. That is our unit 11. ISO stands for International Organization for Standards. Now 9000 is only a representation, that means to make us familiar. So ISO 9000, when we say the organization is adopting quality management system, and it is not only in the host nation but all over the world it is accepted. Now let us go into this ISO 9000 quality management system. Now, when we introduce ourselves into the terminology that is called as quality, we have to look at the past things. When we mean past things, what has happened over the last two, we can say, centuries. That means starting from the industrial revolution, during the era of uh, industrialization, we found in European nations, those who were holding colonies all across the world, they were into production of very huge nature. That means mass production was there. Big factories were coming up. All the raw materials were being siphoned off from the colonial countries and they were used at the factories in the European nations. So it was an era of mass production. However, after the World War II or World War I, you can say, things are changing. One of the gurus of quality, Joseph Juran, he has given an opinion that 20th century, which has already passed, is the century of productivity. When we say century of productivity, the ratio of input to output are considered vital here. That means how much output we can get out of a given set of inputs. In other words, we were trying to reduce wastage, or we are trying to look at avenues which will increase the amount of output, be it products, be it services. He also described that 21st century will be the century of quality. What we understand by it? Now, organizations have to think in terms of quality so that they can sustain. Because nowadays customers are looking at quality, stakeholders are looking at quality. When we say quality, we are talking about total quality management. So we are living in the era of 21st century. That means the era of quality. We ourselves, we can say from our experiences also that yes, whenever we need something, want something, we want to go for such a thing, that means either the product or service, which is of qualitative nature. So organizations are striving hard to maintain quality, which is either comparable or a step ahead of the competitors. Why this thing? Now, quality is the essential factor for survival. Why quality is the essential factor? Now, due to liberalization, privatization and globalization of various economies, that means various country economies, what has happened? The focus is now on how can we deliver the requirements of the customer which are of the best quality. Customer needs are to be satisfied. That means in terms of quality items. Items can be product or can be services. So we say quality is the essential factor for survival. Now, quality and standardization, they become important during the world wars. The world wars, first world war was in 1914 and second was in 1939 and it ended up in 1945. the Second World War. Uh, Here we can say during the world wars, the big nations or the countries which were powerful militarily, they were looking at huge volumes of arms and ammunitions. This will be required in the war fronts. Now, on the war fronts, you cannot have a word called as failure. So there, the items have to be foolproof. So there, the military requirements were according to the specifications as given by military to the suppliers. You can say D specs, that means design specification. Arm specs, army specification. Similarly, specifications by Air Force, Navy and the Army were given accordingly to the requirements. And the suppliers were forced to produce according to the specification. That means they were trying to produce according to the required quality. Walter Seward of Bell Laboratories, as we know, Bell Laboratories or Bell Lab, particularly in US, it was founded, very famous for developing technologies. In Bell Labs, Walter Seward in 1924 invented control charts to see the quality of the items that are being produced. In the previous sections of this particular paper, we have seen control charts. Control charts can be for variables as well as attributes. Variables are numericals. That means particularly for products we use variables. And attributes are items which vary from person to person, like feeling, like ambience, etc. So accordingly, control charts were developed by Seward, where it was shown that what is the requirement as the central line and how much is the deviation that will be allowed on the upper side or on the lower side. That means in the control chart we have upper control limit as well as lower control limit. Now for the variables we had the mean chart and range chart, and for attributes we had proportion defective charts or P chart. These were the basic types that are being used by organizations. Now if the production goes beyond or falls beyond these control levels, then we say the item is defective or the process is producing defective items. Now, one country may be following the control charts. Other countries may not be following the control charts. So when globalization or international trade increased in magnitude, that means after World War II, then what happened? The countries, they tried to look for such kind of quality by using which they can go for competing in the foreign markets. For example, suppose think of those days after World War II, an Indian company producing a certain item wants to compete with a multinational company. Quality wise, we were lagging behind. So, the Indian company would not have survived. So, we saw in the initial or the post independence days up to the days of liberalization, globalization, and privatization, that is during the 1990s, India was a guarded territory. In other words, it had boundaries for foreign goods coming into the country to provide competition to the home country's items. So what happened? We were forced to use what was being offered to us. We didn't have a choice. Here, for example, let us think about going or trying to purchase a car before 1990s, and say after 2000. Before 1990s, if anybody remembers, then we can say in Indian market, the two most used brands were the Premier and the Hindustan Motor Ambassador. After liberalization or privatization, what happened? Maruti Suzuki came into the picture and it completely changed the car industry in the Indian face. Later on, all the multinational company, almost all, at present juncture, have their production plants in India. And if anybody wants to purchase a car, they have lot of options or brands to choose from. So whichever brand is giving higher quality for the products, that will survive in the market. So in other words, companies are now fighting it out for not only having a certain quality level, but also how to rise above that quality level to another level, so that they can go ahead of the competition. So here the requirements of the customers are according to the quality. Now, whatever is the quality requirement, maybe in India, may not be accepted in America. So for that, in order to facilitate the international trade, what happened? A certain body was formed which was called as ISO, International Standard Organization for Standardization. So after World War II, it was formed at Geneva. Now, this body, most of the countries became members, including India. What happened there? Now they agreed upon certain standard levels, quality standard levels, and ISO certified that quality standard levels in various countries. Now think of an Indian product. Suppose India is famous for marine products, Uh, think about prawns. So there, prawns also need certification regarding their quality, and this has to be done by a certain third party, that is international standard for the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. Now here, once it is certified that the products of a country by a third party which is uh, working under the ambit of ISO, then the country where it is to be exported, they immediately see the certificate and they deduce a view that is the items are of qualitative nature or meeting quality standard. So thereby this ISO facilitated international trade. It made easier. Now ISO 9000, as we shall be looking at, is a set of international standards for quality management systems in an organization. ISO stands for, as we said, International Organization for Standards or Standardization, and 9000 is a series. Only it is a name given 9000 in order to identify easily. ISO 9000. Now, when we talk about ISO 9000, it was issued by ISO or International Organization for Standardization in 1987 as ISO 9000 series of international standards. Till date, 9001, 2, 3 are the standards for certification. What is the certification? Now, a third party on behalf of ISO will verify the organizational activities, the processes, every aspect, and it will provide the certificate that is TQM is being practiced. And also apart from that, we have other standards as guidelines for other purposes. Now let us look at ISO 9000. This has been divided into 4 parts. Part 1 is role of documentation. Whatever the activities are being carried out by the organization, that should be properly documented and they should be kept. Part 2 is general guidelines for application of 9001, 9002 and 3 of ISO. So it provides the basic guidelines. Part 3 is a specific one, which are guidelines for application in software companies. Why? Because software companies particularly deal with the intellectual capital. So the set of guidelines which will be applied in software companies are given in part 3. And part 4 is dependability program management. That means it will try to assess how the organization will continue to maintain its TQM policy. Now 9001 in the ISO 9000 series, it is a model for quality assurance in design and development. Now we know that every product or production process starts from design and the development. So in the design, whether quality is maintained or not, quality is inbuilt or not, that is covered under ISO 9001. ISO 9002 is the model for quality assurance in production, installation and servicing. That means whatever we are producing, whether the quality is maintained, when we are actually installing the design, whether quality is maintained, and regarding the service of the process, whether the quality is being maintained. ISO 9003 states about quality assurance in final inspection and testing. Now, before any item, be it a product or service, that goes out of the organization to the marketplace, that means to the customers, ISO 9003 will assure the customers that it has been inspected and tested properly. ISO 9004 certification is for quality assurance to achieve sustained success and continual improvement in organizational performance. We have already said TQM, the total quality management, is a continuous process. We never stop at any given point of time. We try to go on improving ourselves day by day. So it becomes a continuous process, never ending process. So 9004 of ISO certification will give assurance about quality, that the organization will have sustained success. That means the company will run, or the organization will run forever successfully. And not only that, the organization continuously will try to improve its performance over time. We know that the taste of the customers in the marketplace goes on changing. In order to cater to them, we also have to change ourselves. We have to improve ourselves. So we have to go for continuous improvement in organizational performance. Now, 9000 series is based on certain principles. Now, what are the principles? Let us see. First and the basic principle of ISO 9000 is customer focus. Every aspect of the organization should be directed towards the requirement or meeting the needs, requirements of the customer. So, the basic principle is focus on the requirement of the customers. Second is leadership. Now, in order to properly run the total quality management program in the organization, we require leaders. Leaders can be top management, leaders can be also supervisory management. They will lead, that means they will guide the designated employees under them the way the activities should be carried out, so that quality is achieved. Third thing is engagement of people. Now, here ISO 9000 says that all the employees should be involved in the process. Now, when we get involved in a certain thing, we know that we develop a kind of affinity towards it. We try to go deep into that. That motivates the people or the workers or the employees to continually improve upon the activities. Next process principle is, it is a process approach. Organization should have a process approach. When we say process approach, process is starting from the input to the conversion system to the output level. And not only output level, but also to find out the requirement of the customers. Now this should run as a process, starting from input to the requirement of the customers. It also says that there should be continuous improvement in the way things are being done. So that what will happen? Now when a certain quality level has been achieved, people are motivated under the leadership we have seen. They will try to think about how further we can improve the process, how further we can change our way of doing the things, so that customers' ever changing demands will be fulfilled. Next is evidence-based decision making. Now whenever there is question of decision making, that means there is some kind of problem, we should look at documentary things or the documented things. That means it should be based on evidence. Whimsically, we cannot take any kind of decisions. We have to see why the thing has happened, if it has happened, when it had earlier happened, and what was the way out. So we have to seek evidence-based decision making. Last principle of ISO 9000 series is relationship management. When we are talking of organization, we can say that on one side we should have suppliers who will be providing us the inputs in form of material, components, etc. Inputs will be transferred to the conversion process, wherefrom they will be directed to the output segment, and from there it will be channelized to customers. Now every segment of this are related to each other. So how to maintain proper relationship with the, we can say, suppliers, the customers, or the workers in the process, so that everything goes on smoothly. So ISO 9000 also speaks about relationship management. Now, what benefits an organization will get by implementing ISO 9000 series? First of all, we know that ISO 9000 series, the basic principle is customer focus. What do you understand by it? The organization tries to find out what are the requirements of the customer, how that can be satisfied, or how the customer can be delighted. That means if we provide them more value for the amount they are paying up, that means we are giving them more quality, then they will be delighted. Now, if an organization is implementing total quality management, the whole of the process will focus on the basic needs of the customer. Everything will be directed towards customer satisfaction. Accordingly, input will be sourced in, conversion process will work so that output are coming out with testing and being passed on to the customers. Second is, it will increase the efficiency and effectiveness. Now, when we are saying efficiency, how much is the output we are getting out of the input? Total quality management says that minimization of risk, minimization of waste. If you are minimizing the waste, that means from the given set of inputs, you are getting more and more output. You are becoming more efficient. However, in order to become efficient, one thing we have to keep in mind is the items should be according to the proper specifications. That means we are effective in delivering the results. Next is improved communication. When we apply the total quality management in the organization, communication goes on between various levels of management. That means top, the supervisory or middle, and the executive or the workers. So the communication line improves by adopting the ISO 9000 series. When we adopt ISO 9000 series or are certified, then we know that we have got a certain skill or certain level of standing in the market, that means in the economy, that we can fight it out with any other similar items producing organization. So our spirit of competitiveness increases. Now, an organization suppose is ISO 9000 series certified. Customers nowadays are very quality conscious. If they see the products have been certified with ISO 9000 series, immediately they think that is the item must be of qualitative nature. In other words, this enhances the reputation of the company, the credibility of the organization. And ISO 9000 series helps the employee that their activities are providing better results as given above, like the efficiency, effectiveness, competitiveness, etc. That motivates the employee, that forces them to do better and better. Similarly, ISO 9000 series, we know that it is always documented. If certain kind of risk is arising, we can go back to the documentation and see in similar situation what kind of actions were taken, or any modifications in the actions taken can be done so that the emerging risk can be better handled. So we say ISO 9000 series helps for better risk management. Now in the ISO 9000 series, we have ISO 9001 provided or given in 2008. So most of the benefits that we get in ISO 9000 series are also provided here. What is it? Now, first of all, it is a framework for delivering outputs that meet the customer requirements. Not only that, but also the regulatory requirements. Now, this will guide the organization how to satisfy the customer. And nowadays, meeting the regulatory requirements has become very important. All of us know that in India we have a certain organization called as NGT, National Green Tribunal. Now, if you are undertaking any kind of activities which is detrimental to environment, they come forward and they have the power to penalize you. Similarly, the environmental department is there, other departments are there. So, as an organization, we have to look at the regulatory requirements. Now, ISO 9001-2008 will provide us the framework for those two objectives. Now here, this certification ISO 9001-2008 is done by a third party. ISO, that is the International Organization for Standardization, it has certain nodal agencies which are independent of the organization. They will come and verify the organization whether they are meeting the framework as prescribed for the 9001-2008 series. After that only they will provide the certificate. certification. So the certification for ISO 9001 2008 is done by the third party, which is an outside party. That means not belonging to the organization. We know that if we are getting ISO certification, the customers who are purchasing the items, they immediately know that yes, the item is matching or meeting certain quality labels. In India, if you look at, we also have a certain set of standards in Indian nation or Indian economy. That is BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. They also prescribe the norms, but if you are going for international trade, then you have to go for ISO satisfaction. Now, when you get this certification, that is ISO 9001 2008, it means that your inputs, your process, the outputs, your the suppliers management, the customers satisfaction, all are of qualitative nature. The certification itself will say that yes, that is a quality organization. That means it will enhance the reputation. It helps if you are adopting this ISO certification, you have to adhere to the framework which will increase the efficiency and effectiveness. And as we know, risk management is done in a better way. Now, this also leads to the engagement of the employees. They feel that yes, the organization is ours. Let us make it a quality organization. And once they know the benefits of a quality organization, they will engage themselves of higher magnitude with the organization. This will also improve the communication between the employees at various levels and also collaborations. That means working in a team. Now, what are the principles of 9001 2008? Just similar to ISO 9000, we say the first is customer focus. Whatever the customer is requiring, the needs, that has to be taken into the basic design. It has to be planned and the processes have to be set up in that way that it will produce outputs which will satisfy the customer requirements. So we say the basic principle is customer focus. Now, in order to implement the ISO 9001 2008 principles, we should have leaders in the organization. They will try to motivate a given set of workers so that they work towards achieving the quality objectives. Now, once employees understand about the benefits of a total quality management organization, it is seen that employees think the organization as their own. That means involvement of the employees starts to increase. Now it is a process approach. When we say process approach, we start from the suppliers to inputs, inputs to processes, then comes outputs in the form of products and services, and those satisfy the need of the customers. Is a systematic approach or system approach to management. This also asks the organization for a continual improvement in their total organization. Now the decision making process will never be a whimsical one. That means whatever I feel correct, that I will enforce on the organization since I am a top management person. That cannot happen. Decision making should always be based upon not a personal judgment, but according to facts, which has been documented. Mutually beneficial supplier relationship. Now it is the supplier who provides us the input items, be it materials, be it any type of commodities, etc. So the conversion process basically inside the organization starts from input segment, and it passes on to the processing unit, then comes out as output. Now if inputs are not having quality, it becomes very difficult to maintain quality all throughout. Now here, organizations adopting this ISO 9001-2008, they try to have a healthy relationship with the suppliers. That means whatever are the designs, they ask the suppliers to produce accordingly and provide us the materials or components, whatever are the inputs. Similarly, if we have less number of suppliers or few suppliers, then the supplier also thinks that it is also becoming a part of the organization. So there what we can do, that we can pass on the ideas to suppliers. Supplier not only will provide the finished items as to be used as inputs, but also the supplier will give many ideas for the items. So thereby what is happening? A mutually beneficial relationship occurs with the supplier. Then came another series, ISO 9001-2015. When we saw the previous one, that is 2008, it was the framework for outputs that meet customer and regulatory requirements. But 9001-2015 ISO series, the framework is for quality management system. Now here, as we have said, The certification will be done by the agency appointed by ISO, that means the third party, for commitment to quality by the organization. And not only that, that the organization, once it reaches a certain level of quality, will stop its policy there. No, this will go on a continuous basis so that the organization can improve the quality levels. Now, these are basically some of the things that we get in ISO 9001 2015. First is context of the organization. That means here we try to see what is the basic purpose for which the organization has been created. Now, what is the vision, what is the mission of the organization? Now, once the organization exists, it will start processing the items and produces finished goods in terms of the products or services. But when you are going for ISO certification, your whole process has to be under the TQM program, Total Quality Management Program. And in order to implement that, you require leaders. The organization, through its leaders, plan the various activities so that the whole system is built or having a inbuilt quality aspect to it. The management have to provide support for the quality management program. Now, once the operation starts, that means the conversion process, then we say that the management has to see the application of total quality management, and after a certain period of time, the performance of the organization has to be evaluated. And as we know, the taste of the customers are changing day by day. So accordingly, we have to improve ourselves. Then we have ISO 9011 2018 series. In other series, we saw the framework for quality management system as well as the customer and the regulatory requirements. Now, this is a framework for auditing management systems. What we understand here? Now, how the management system is actually performing. That means in the past period, what it has done, what was required to be done, that are matched. That means audited. How it will be done? ISO 19011 2018 provides the guidance for internal and external audits of quality, environment, health and safety, and other management systems. Here it is divided into two parts. Part one is for the role of audit teams. Second is to provide guidance on the management of audit program. That means how to conduct the auditing planning. Then implementing the auditing, conducting, then finding out the results and locating the deviations, that is reporting, and we see whether the deviations are being covered up or have been dealt with, that is follow. When we look at the documentation part of ISO 9001 quality management system, first of all we talk about the quality manual. The quality management system should have a quality manual. This manual is a booklet which will be containing the procedures of implementing quality management system. It will be providing work instructions. That means who will do what. And in order to record the various facts, informations, how are the forms and records to be created and maintained. Then we have to have a quality policy of the organization, along with what are the objectives the organization wants and the targets to achieve. Now for the quality management system, the employees have to be trained, and this training should have training records. And if the organization is going for internal audits, internal audit records should be maintained. Now, while implementing the 9001 quality management system, find out the gap analysis. That means what is happening, what is required for quality management system. Now, in order to close down that gap, develop a implementation plan for which you require a quality management team. They will develop the policies and procedures and train the employees. Processes will be implemented with quality. Then we try to look at how we are performing. That means internal audits will be done, and the results will say what are the lacunas, if any, and we try to improve upon that, and using that we go for certification. Now with this we end our session on this particular subject, the quality standards, that means systems and standards. In the other sections shall go into specific ISO quality standards. Thank you.